Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and that means life, love, and lessons. Thank you so much for tuning in to us week after week. Tonight is the season finale, and we'll take a little break and then we'll decide what's coming next. But you know, the only thing that is constant is change. Change is natural, and it's a constant part of life, especially in these turbulent times that we're living in today. Not only does everything around you change, but actually you change as well. The problem is that many of us resist it and we reject it. And although change can be scary and difficult, change is actually a good thing, and it can be so worth it in the end. While not all change feels good, if we can handle it and we can look in at it in the right light, growth as well as good outcomes can come from accepting the change. Welcome to Life, Love, and Lessons. We are joined tonight by Judge Lynn Toler. She has been a longtime expert on divorce court and is a co-host of Marriage Boot Camp, along with Dr. Ish, board-certified psychiatrist and resident expert on all things dating and relating. We're also joined by psychologist and Zen hero, Alyssa Gruber. I'm Louisa Eyler. I'm a TEDx speaker, college professor. I'm a mom. I'm a licensed social worker. And welcome to Life, Love, and Lessons. You know, Judge Lynn, life in general in these bizarre times are strange to say the least, and I'm not even sure that strange is the right word, but right now, what are your thoughts just on life in general and getting fixated on how things should be versus how they are?
You know, the best things have always happened to me out of the darkest times. Now, the best thing hadn't happened yet. I'm still waiting for it to come. But there's two ways you can look at it. You can't change the fact that it's changing. You can't change the layers of crazy that are going on. So what you have to do is find opportunity in the challenge, because that's all there is. You know, it's either, you know, you're consumed by it or you lean into it. And so you have the choice to lean into it, and that is all we can do.
Well, I think that's what happens. Sometimes like we lean so far into it that we get fixated on that just one thing that we just can't get out of our mind. And what do you kind of think?
But when I say lean into it, I mean lean into the change. I mean, you know, get on the river and float. Don't just be able to ride it where it is and do what you have to do in the context of where it's taking you. You can decide what you want to do and where you're going to go and how you're going to be, but don't fight it all the time. You know what I mean? You have to find your way to where you're going, and it's not necessarily what you thought it was going to be. I never meant to be on TV, ever. Ever. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. I want to be a doctor, put people to sleep so I didn't have to talk to them. You know, that's what I wanted. And I had to, things happened, and here I am.
Yeah, I think that's so true. My family used to say, you know what, the bus is coming. And when you get on the bus, sometimes you just got to hold on, because sometimes you're not the driver. And sometimes you're going to go around the corners real fast. And sometimes you just got to wait. And I think that that's really a good analogy for what's happening right now, because so many things are out of our control. And now as we think that, oh my goodness, you know, we're only like 106 days from Christmas. The election's coming up. It's about to be fall. Summer is over. And in years past, right about now, everybody would be ending their summer flings and thinking about hunkering down and cozying up for fall. And when we think about the seasons of love and dating and searching for partners, Dr. Ish, with all the things that are going on in the world, I mean, what are couples saying about Christmas, and what are couples saying about just in general, you know, dating, relating? Is it different at 20, 30, 40? You know, lay it all out on us.
Yeah, we're stuck in a weird Christmas cartoon. We really don't know if Christmas is coming, right? Like, is it coming or not? We don't know. So I think as much as things change, a lot of things stay the same. And so the thing that stays the same is, you know, what we look to make sure we're going to be okay. And one of those things are our relationships. Who do we love and who's loving us? And so as we are, as you know, 2020 has really been the winter of a lot of our lives, but as we are physically approaching the winter, folks are still looking for that, right? Fall and winter is typically, you know, what the young folks refer to as cuffing season, right? We're going to get linked up, and, you know, We need, you know, we need to keep the beds warm and all this kind of stuff. And so I think folks are still looking for that, but they're really struggling with how do I do it? You know, how do I do it safely? And it's a challenge, right? This is one of those times where a lot of folks who are really feeling alone, whether you're in a relationship or not. And it's different for different age groups, right? When I'm thinking about, you know, your 20s and your 30s and the 40s, things change, right? And so the way I think about it is, in your 20s, you're focused on what you want in a relationship. In your 30s, you're more focused on what you need in your relationship. In your 40s, you're more focused on what you deserve, right, in this relationship. And so as those things change, the things that you're going to accept in those relationships change, and the things that you're actually looking for in those relationships change. You know, do I want somebody to go to the movies with, or do I want somebody to watch Netflix with, or, and you know, do I want somebody concerned enough who will actually pause it when I fall asleep and won't finish it without me? You know, so those things change as we adapt and as we grow. And so it's difficult, but folks are still looking for it, and I think you can still find it, but it's just a little more tricky these days because of all the things that we can't do.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting because I live in a downtown area, and now more than ever, I see more young people, and I can tell that, you know, it's the 20 and young 30-year-olds that now their lives have changed, and, you know, maybe they're not settled or don't own their own homes, and they're just kind of searching for something. And you can tell that they're kind of longing, and everything that you just said right now so coincides with like the stages of development where, you know, in your early 20s, you're looking for love. In your early 30s, you're looking to prove that you can care about someone. Yep. And by the time that you're in your 40s and 50s, you just want to live a life of integrity. So I'm seeing more people of my own age just kind of staying home. And if I didn't live downtown, I wouldn't be out there walking, but it's just interesting for me to see that. And even people that I've been talking to, what they're really speaking to is not only longing for the way life used to be, but kind of longing for an understanding of what it's going to be like in the future. Alyssa, what can you shed some light on to us about longing?
Well, I think that, imagine a spectrum. Most people spend their lives thinking about how the past could have been different or worrying about the catastrophe in the future. And what that does is it robs us of the opportunity to be in the present. Now, some might say this present is sucky. I don't want to be here, so God bless. I'm going to stay on the future or the past. But really, that longing is a deep need just to feel safe and have a plan and to feel held and just to really have a sense that it's going to be okay. But here's the rub. The only true sense of that comes from ourselves. We're constantly spending our lives looking around, trying to get somebody to tell us it's all going to be all right. And ultimately, that longing can only be fulfilled by ourselves. So this period of time is nuts, but it's teaching us a lot about resilience and flow and adaptation. So I love what Judge Lynn said, which is like, you don't have to like it, but this is what's happening. So how can you be functional in it?
Yeah. And can I say this? I remember when, I don't know what was happening. I think it was either a Iraq war or something. And I was talking to my mom and she didn't seem very interested. And she said, baby, do you know I was born during the Depression to a 14-year-old mother. And then there was World War II. And then, you know, and then there was this, and then there was that. And all of that, you know, there were people living in England and Germany when the bombing was going on. So if you have historical perspective, this is odd, but this ain't horrifying.
I love that. Yep, that's right.
The long view is, as jacked up as it is, we have the capacity. 20 years ago, we couldn't have responded to a pandemic the way we did with all of this Zoom stuff.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
Done it.
I love
it. Done it.
I love that, because what it does is it sheds so much light on our privilege. And, you know, privilege and longing go hand in hand. Like, we love easy, we love automatic, we love, you know, slick and sly and, you know, right in the door. And right now is a time where we're sort of being unrobed. Like, we have to sit back with ourselves. We have to acknowledge where we get triggered, where we get lonely, where our privilege rests. Like, if the worst thing that happens to us, you know, is that we're experiencing loneliness emotionally, you know, there's resilience built there. There really is. There's suffering that, you know, so many are experiencing right now, so much more grievous than lonely. So it's important that that context exists. I agree 100%.
Well, yeah, because, you know, embracing change, it not only allows us to keep up with the times and stay up to date, but it also, in some ways, allows you to get ahead, because when you pause, you have to look at things from a larger perspective, and you yourself are still, so you can see a lot of the world around you turning. And also, change allows progress to happen. And improvement really is impossible without change. And change is also necessary for growth and for even personal development. And sometimes it doesn't have to be sudden or even drastic. It can be slow and steady. You know, for years, I guess for centuries, or maybe as long as this saying existed, but it was always wait and see. I think now we've even changed that to see and wait, because, you know, we're just kind of needing to pause as soon as we see something, because we get one piece of information one day and another piece of information another day. And my goodness, even though the world is full of opportunities, we don't even know like which door to open, because we don't even know right now what's possible or what isn't possible. And then when we get all of that wondering and that disarray, sometimes people who are already frustrated and anxious about not only the changing of the seasons, but sometimes even the changing of a new day, or, you know, winter to fall, night to day. Dr. Ish, break it down for us. What are all the different things that kind of go along with seasonal affective disorder, anxiety, depression, the loneliness, the holiday blues? You know, educate us.
Everybody's a little anxious about something right now. Everybody's a little bit depressed, or a whole lot depressed about something right now. Everybody is worrying about what's going to come with this next season right now. And we're all having trouble adjusting. So let's look at the big things, right? So we talked about depression and anxiety at one point. The seasonal affective disorder, it's a big fancy term. It just means you get depressed when the sun goes down, right? When the sun is down longer than it's up. So wintertime, as those days get short and we got less and less sunlight, a lot of folks don't react well to that, myself being one of them. We need that daytime. We need that daylight to kind of keep us on rhythm, to literally let the light in. And so a lot of people struggle with feeling alone and feeling depressed, which leads back to why a lot of people try to get into new relationships during this time, so they don't have that feeling. They have that support to go through it. The adjustment disorder stuff. Adjustment disorder is real interesting. It's one of those catch-all kind of phrases for psychiatrists. Whenever we can't quite put our finger on what's happening, we will just call it adjustment disorder with, anxious, with anxious components, with depressed components, sometimes with psychotic components, right? If you don't adjust well to what's happening, you're going to have some issues, right? It's one of those common sense kind of catch-alls. But what it really is something happened, and it's 3 months after that thing happened, and you still haven't adjusted well to it, right? You're still struggling with it. It's still, it's still taking up more hours in your day than it should, right? If you're 22 and you're still talking about the girl who dumped you at the prom, you have not adjusted well, right? That's an issue. We need to, right? We need to talk about it. I give you a perfect example. I'm a car super freak, right? When I was in college, I had a beautiful, beautiful car, little two-door, my first car, did everything in the world to fixed it up. And, every week I'm out there washing it and shining it. It was just like the thing, you just couldn't tell me anything about this car. One day we're in class. I'm a freshman in college. We're in class. Storm comes through. A couple of trees fall down. We all walk outside to go home. My car, my beautiful baby, is the only one that got damaged. A tree literally fell and crushed it. Right? So the car gets towed home, and for the next 2 weeks, I can't even stand to look at it. I just put a sheet on a cover over it, and I can't stand to look at it. And so my dad comes up to me at 2 weeks later, and we're outside doing something. He's like, "Son, aren't you even gonna look at it?" Right? Because he knew I wasn't adjusting well. So it's one of those things. But once I pulled the sheet off, it wasn't as bad as I thought, and you can move through it. And so take-home message is, got to look at the thing, right? Adjustment disorder is you letting your supposed to's run out of control, right? It's supposed to be this, it's supposed to be that, I'm supposed to be doing this, and it all gets out of hand because this thing happened that's not letting me finish what I was supposed to do, and I can't handle it. So that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you think you can't handle it, what are some quick things that you can kind of do to kind of embrace for it?
Well, you should remember the last time you couldn't handle it. Then you're still here, right? So obviously you handled it. It got handled. So what did you do the last time something came up that you couldn't handle? It was too much, it overwhelmed you. What did you do? Who did you talk to? What new skill did you learn? Who did you reach out to? What did you read? What self-soothing skill what were those things, right? Every day teaches us something new. It teaches us how to be better and more infused in this world. So what did you learn the last time? Did you get more spiritual? Did you lean harder on your faith? Was it a partner or a family member, right? You're going to repeat those things on different levels, higher and higher levels. So that's the main thing. That's the main thing. You just got to understand life is always working out for you. Like Judge said, and I will echo that. The best things, the coolest things, the most amazing things in my life have all happened right after I lost it all, or everything got out of control, or I fell out of the sky with no parachute, right? Those things that we feel like we had no control over, that is the universe shifting you into that next thing where you think you should be or where you're supposed to be. And it's not very comfortable. It's entirely uncomfortable. But the thing this pandemic is teaching us is how to sit with that discomfort, right? Because we can't get away from it now.
Can I add something to that? Because I'm right with you on that.
Yeah.
And what I recommend to my son, I have six, I never say who I'm talking about. I don't get mad. But he was rattling off, he knows which one it is, but he was rattling off his concerns.
Yeah.
And I said, well, hold up. Let's shake out the sheets of your problems.
Yep.
Because they all become bundled and it all landed on his head. Now let's shake them out.
Yep.
And there's always some at the edge. You work the edges. I can fix this. I can fix this. And I can fix this. It may not be big. It may not be huge. But every little fix changes how you feel. Every win gets registered by your mind. So you handle your hair. You know what I mean? Couldn't yet. And then one by one, you learn to be and just pick things you can fight and beat that one, and then you're energized and you feel good and you feel more capable to fight that thing that you have a real struggle with. But shake out your sheets of the problems. All of them ain't big, but they all look like the same problem when you're having them all at the same time.
Yep. It builds momentum, and it lets you. And when you look at it, when you can explode it, it lets you examine the evidence, right? You get to play Perry Mason. Okay, the evidence says you were home at 8 o'clock when this person got into this accident, so it couldn't have been you who was right. And once you can really look at it, then you can start to build some method. Like, okay, I see where I can kind of get in this. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Our minds tell us so many lies, like jumbo lies, and lies load upon lies, and we start to perseverate. And it's really about that sense of anxiety and not knowing. So the fitting that meditation affords, I'm going to do a little plug for meditation here because it looks like different things for everybody, but that, and Dr. Ish and I talked about this, it's an introduction to spaciousness. Before you bite the hook and just start spiraling off out of the hole, down the rabbit hole, it's enough of just a little parentheses to say, okay, where's the evidence? I'm still breathing. Success rate 100%. I can have faith. Not knowing isn't going to kill me. We have this terrible sense of hysteria about not knowing. And I think when we can just settle into that, we don't have to like it. We can hate it, but we really have to learn to not know, which is so counterintuitive. We're all such know-it-alls. Like we all want to know it all. We want to have every answer. We have a 5-year plan. So a lot of people right now are completely freaking out because not only is there not a 5-year plan, there's not a 5-minute plan. So it's really about deploying all of our skills to be present to what is happening now and to be kind to ourselves in the process. Like Judge said, shake the sheets out. Like Dr. Ish said, like really look at where you're not adjusting. Like Louisa said, change is always happening. So this is a real reckoning, and that's what I've been calling it. It's giving us everything at once. And the minute we think we can't take more, it gives us another scoop. Here's the thing. We're all still sitting here talking about it, which is a blessing and a privilege. So another thing that I think is really important during this time is to insert joy. Like, it doesn't have to be monumental joy, but it's really important to train our minds to beauty and joy and faith. You know, in the absence of that, it's really easy to become a complete catastrophizer. So that quieting down the brain just helps. It just is good business for the brain. It really is.
There's the primary things that are really the big things, and then there's secondary things, and then there's the tertiary things that are just little by little. And sometimes really we kind of rename the tertiary things the big things, and we think that every single little thing is a big thing, and it's really not. You know, we think that the molehill is a mountain, and it's just not. You know, we think we kind of catastrophize on our own because we roll everything up into one. And I think that it's really important that when you have something big, that you break it down. You know, this is the big thing. I'm not ready to tackle the big thing right now, but to Judge Lynn's point, I can tackle some of the secondary, smaller things. And then on the tertiary level, I can do all these little things that are still going to continue to build my gradual confidence, so that as I'm working my way up to that big thing, it just doesn't feel so overwhelming. And I think, Judge Lynn, you talk about this quite often about layering your life. You know, how do you do that? Break it down for the listeners again, because I think you've got it down and you really speak to it fervently. And I think that that's something that everyone can benefit from.
When times are good or bad, I always have a number of things that I'm doing that can remove me from my current circumstance. I paint, I crochet. I thought I was growing a garden. Now I think I just have a $199 salad going on over there. But it's just, you know, I bought a piano, you know, and I got my books. And so it's something that will just engage me and walk me away. So even when other things aren't working out, I can conquer that piece on the piano, or I did make one good painting, or, you know, I did get that one salad out of the thing. It's, you know, you're consciously collecting joy. You're consciously collecting small wins. You're consciously collecting, because this is today. And don't miss it. Screwing around with it tomorrow you can't define.
Right.
And I can enjoy today if it's no more than 15 minutes of doing X, Y, and Z. And at the end of the day, every day you have to have something worth living for. Or the whole point is we're trying to get somewhere. And by the time we do, you know, we're skidding into the grave. It's too late. So you got to enjoy today. It took me 55 years to figure that out.
That is so important, because I think, you know, too many times people wait till they're feeling bad to kind of say, oh, what am I going to do today? Or how am I going to pull myself out of this? And if you wait until you feel bad to kind of figure out what to do, then you're in trouble.
Too late. Right?
So for example, if you didn't have the knitting or the piano or the garden or all the things that you sort of got ready for because you know how you are and that you need things to do when you get distracted with your mind. I'm the same way. I go for walks, I record little videos, I play the piano, I read these books. And I think that if everybody listening could understand that the days that you're feeling good, almost like preventative maintenance on your car, you know, every so often just put some more things on your bucket list. Every so often, you know, rummage through what you've already got and re-bring it to the surface, and, you know, clean out your drawers or do little things that are just going to enhance all the small things of your life that, again, feed into the big things. You know, to have a good life, you have a whole bunch of great little tiny moments. And that's what life is. It's the sum total of all of it. And I think sometimes we get too distracted by what other people are saying versus what we think we want to do, versus even just looking at, oh my gosh, I can do this today. Alyssa, how do you get kind of okay with recognizing the power and oneness and realizing that independent of all others, you really are still okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's seminal to every conversation. But let me just also give a maxim that I think is really great for mental health. It's better to patch your roof when it's sunny versus raining. So we're all proactive caretakers for our well-being. In an ideal world, we'd all be supported by community that loved us up and could psychically read our minds and meet all of our needs. That would be amazing. Like, I want it, but that's not reality. The reality is many people find themselves alone. Many of their emotional needs are not feeling met and they're feeling out of control. I wish I could tell you somebody's going to come, and rescue you from that feeling. Now, there's definitely help to pursue. Don't misunderstand me. But being okay with yourself gives you a new kind of liberation. It gives you the sense that you can handle your own life. And ultimately, I think the task of adulthood is to become the parent for ourselves we always wish we had. Like I wish we all had this amazing network all the time, and we can build it. But in the absence of that, we can complain about the fact that it is terrible that our foot, and I'm going to say this analogy again, is caught in the bear trap, but it's getting dark. And at the end of the day, you need to get your foot out of the bear trap and get out of the woods. So it's our responsibility to learn how to take care of ourselves and not be so hostile about it. That's the thing. Like a lot of us are really pissed. We have to take care of ourselves. Like we're tired. We're amazing. It's taking care of everybody else, but we're really bummed out that we didn't get the memo that said, oh yeah, sorry, like you're a grown up. Like it doesn't necessarily get easier unless we decide it does. And that's the training the mind piece. Really looking at life and saying, yeah, it's hard, but you know what? I'm really good at hard things because I've practiced and I've survived and I built resilience. So yeah, I think it's tough being a grown up, but you know what? It's a privilege too. And we get to offer ourselves the stuff we long for. We long for that caring. You know what? We can do it for ourselves. We really can.
That's a perfect segue because there's actually a question in the chat, and the question is, how do you handle it when you're always the one to lend an ear for others, but when you express a concern that you may have, the response is minimal, if any at all? People sometimes take up so much of your time in the midst of them venting, but it's never reciprocated. Any advice for that question?
I'd love to field that one. Again,
I was going to say, Alyssa, that's all you right there. Grab that one.
I mean, so here's the rub. Like codependence is defined and hallmarked by giving and giving and giving to the point of exhaustion while not feeling equipped to take care of ourselves. So boundaries are the first thing. Really understanding what your difficulty is in saying no, and also really curating the people with whom you have intimate conversations and managing expectations. Not everybody is able to reciprocate, and you get to decide whether or not that person is in your inner circle. But it's truly about believing that you are worthy of care and to speak up for yourself. And if people can't hear you and can't offer you back what you are really seeking, it's time to evaluate those relationships. They should never be 80-20. There really should be a balance and harmony. I really truly believe that hallmarks, and I used that word before, like a healthy dynamic. Because otherwise you're just going to be exhausted and angry and hostile all the time and feel like nobody cares about you, which is, again, a little bit of a distortion, but you're also picking those people. Now, you might say you can't pick your family, but you can certainly pick the way you interact with your family. That is in your core, 100%.
Yeah, boundaries are super important. Judge Lynn, you should know that in the chat, somebody says, we love Judge Lynn and her Tolerisms. they've named your little euphemisms of all the things that you need to do to have a great life. Another question in the chat is, what if your problem is that you feel you want to tell someone how much they hurt you and have good boundaries, and you could close that chapter, however, it will ruin the current relationship. So can you have boundaries and save a relationship?
Yeah, you can. Dr. Phil used to say, you teach people how to treat you.
Exactly.
Alter your behavior, they have to alter how they come at you. You're not a victim of other people's approach to you. You can design what they do because about the way that you treat them. So you don't have to go full blown. You're not going to get everything you want all at once. You know what? I said this to my husband last night. 8 o'clock at night is not the time to say something like that to me.
Good.
It's it's the kind of conversation we need to have in the morning. So,
Yeah.
so instead of, you didn't better, but it's like, nah, it's a time. Because 8
Yeah.
o'clock at night is my worry time, and it just don't do it.
Yeah.
So if you can tell people how to treat you, do it nicely. You don't have to get mad about it, but just say, hey, this is not an 8 p.m. kind of conversation for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're all looking for that evidence that we're enough to be loved and we're enough to be happy, we're enough to be cared for, especially now. But don't let that stop you from having difficult conversations, because when you do that, you rob them of the opportunity to surprise you, right? They might surprise you and say, you know what? I'm so glad you brought this up because I have been trying to figure out a way to talk to you about it, right? If you're feeling it and thinking it, they're probably thinking it and feeling it too. And so somebody's just got to be the hero. Somebody's got to go first, right? Somebody's got to address the elephant in the room. Say, listen, we got an elephant. At some point, we got to eat it. I got a knife. If you got a fork, let's just figure this thing out. That whole thing. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And also, I think if a relationship is able to be destroyed by a conversation about feelings, I don't even know why you're calling it a relationship to begin with. It might look like a relationship and smell like a relationship, but it's not a relationship. Relationships that are functional are places where you can discuss things, you can have your opinions, you can have your feelings, and know that the other person still is going to stick around.
Right.
Yeah, and when you've had a whole bunch of unhealthy relationships, sometimes the mental things that you say to yourself are, well, I can tolerate this. It hurts so much less than the last one. And then you think you get to the next one and you're like, oh, well, this is okay. Well, there's a quote, something that goes something like, good is the enemy of great. And it's one of the key reasons that people have so little of their life that actually becomes great, because it's so easy to settle for something that's just good. And, if you can pause, and sometimes to Judge Lynn's point, when she is wise enough in her own boundaries to know that, hey, I can't talk to you right now at 8 o'clock. One of my most favorite things that I say to people is, you know what? I need to have a little bit of time before I respond to that interesting question you just asked me. I need some time for independent thinking. So can we schedule this conversation to be continued? And then I give them a date whenever I think, however long, I need to kind of digest what they've said to me. Because I feel like if you have something that is important enough to warrant a discussion, just like when you're trying to be sold something, if it's a good deal today, and if it's worthy of having a conversation today, guess what? It's going to be worthy of it tomorrow and the next day and whenever I get around to it. And if I feel that it was too hurtful, maybe I'll just get around to it never, but I get to decide, and I don't have to opt in just because you put me on the spot to make me feel uber critical about something. And I think that's one of the big points, that it's just like you rush through it. And so, I just think to make sure that we remind ourselves that still, if you go back and replay some of the former episodes, you've got to pause. And we just are such creatures of habit to kind of answer everybody now and to prove our point, and just gotta wait. You just gotta wait, Another question that's in the chat is related to any advice in this changing world for young college students, and how to talk to young people and young adults about kind of embracing the change.
So what I've told my son, and what I would tell a lot of young people, is be easy on yourself. Nobody's doing a perfect job. Learn what you can while you can, and stop the inner judge. Like, a lot of people are having to move back in with their parents. A lot of people are feeling underemployed or they're lonely. It's like, just, learn how to silence that critic a little bit. And the answer is not to drink it away or to drug it away or to sex it away. Like, tempting, I get it, but those are not long-term solutions. They might seem attractive, especially in that age group, but self-medication only turns out to be harmful down the road. So learn what you can, be patient, and try not to judge yourself too harshly. No one has this figured out. No one does.
Yeah, and there's another question in the chat that says, my survival has been based on stuffing the feelings and taking care of others' needs and wants by discarding myself. And, make sure you take a moment and put yourself first and start to ask yourself the question, why are you doing that? And I think sometimes when you kind of can go back and understand maybe why you did it, or why you feel the need to do it, you realize that you're trying to please someone and you haven't even asked yourself, what do I need? And just that simple reframing of you first, it's going to put different things into perspective, because when you do things in the wrong order, you're always going to get the wrong outcome. And just like you're on the airplane when we were still flying, this plane's going down, no matter what your situation is, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. That rule applies to life as well.
I would like to add to that answer to that, add something to that answer, is people typically when they ask me something like that, they want to know how to fix it all. And you can't grab your control back all at once. There is no like panacea. And I remember this one lady said she was like that, you know, more for everybody else. And the first thing she did was take the biggest piece of fried chicken one night. Because, you know what I mean? You start small. But it's take the biggest piece of fried chicken. Get that, you know what I mean? And then put on your turn signal and walk everybody to where you're going to go. You're not all going to suddenly be somewhere else. But just start taking that walk. One thing at a time. Yeah, I took the biggest piece of chicken. I cooked it. Why can't I have the biggest piece?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. Baby steps are still steps. You got to take them.
Yeah, that's right. If you want to have the Feast of Kings, you first have to look in the mirror and say, I'm a king or I'm a queen. And that's the most important thing. If you're not there yet, when you just start just a little bit of that aspirational thinking, that can move you in the right direction. And now is the point in the show where we put ourselves in that 1 minute where even if we wouldn't give any other time of day to ourselves, we give ourselves a minute. So Alyssa, this is your mindful minute.
Okay, so you're deserving of this minute. Close your eyes if it feels safe for you, and imagine that you are a tree rooted deeply in the ground. You cannot be uprooted. You are strong, your leaves are full, you're watered, you're ancient. You are strong and rooted. The wind may blow, but you stand tall and firm. You are evergreen. Breathe
That
out.
wasn't a minute. Was that a minute?
Just about.
Really? That was super fast.
You really trained me. 'Cause I used to dread that minute, like it lasted forever.
And isn't it amazing? But hold on, I have to say something to that. You're one of the most spectacular women I've ever had the privilege of interacting with.
Oh, thank you.
For this, if it's hard for you to spend a minute with yourself, imagine how a lot of people feel in days alone in their apartment. So I have great love for everyone. That minute can feel really hard, but it's the most important gift you can give yourself, because it's just saying, you know what, I'm okay with me. You know, I'm okay with me. If this is as good as it gets, I can still find joy. So thank you for joining me for that minute.
Yeah, and it's amazing how just 1 minute really can change everything, and just 1 second can change everything. You know, everything just goes so quickly. And in the beginning of this Life, Love, and Lesson show 9 weeks ago, we could barely even get through a minute. And now it's like, oh, we could have 2 minutes, or maybe it's a 5-minute meditation. I don't know. But for those of you listening, I want you to understand how valuable meditation is. You know, it's just gaining traction in many different communities. And it's something that really causes you to pause, and that deep breathing of just filling yourself with more oxygen. It helps you understand and respond to your problems just a little bit better. You know, it really does. And, you know, sometimes we always think that, you know, life would be different if we were in somebody else's shoes, or we have these visions of happily ever after, but, you know, that's a thing of the past, right? Right now is the only moment that matters. So Judge Lynn, some final tips on being happy now.
Just do it minute by minute, you know? I mean, I lost a lot of my life worrying about what tomorrow was going to bring. And all the stuff I worry about never happened. None of it. And half of it was mutually exclusive, you know?
Dr. Ish, what are some quick tips for kind of managing these unpredictable times and being ready for whatever comes next?
You got to do a couple things. You got to actively cultivate your calm, right? And one of those big things we just did was just breathing, right? Just take a breath. take a beat. Judge says it, take a pause. Alyssa said it tonight, take a breath. So do that. But the other thing you can really do is just, you got to inventory your uncertainty. You got to inventory that anxiety, right? So what I want you to do is take an hour of your day. If you are really worried, if you really feel like it helps you to worry, you schedule it. Take an hour out of every day and you say, okay, you know what? From 6 to 7, I'm going to worry about these 5 things right here. And I guarantee you, you will not be able to fill up that hour. But I want you to do it anyway. and continue to do it. So that way you can kind of, it's not this nebulous thing that's always coming at you. It's this thing that you can control. All right, yeah, I got these things I'm going to worry about. And I'm going to start worrying at 7 o'clock on the dot. And then we're going to handle it. And now I can wrap my arms around it. And now I can make it tangible. I can make it a more real thing. And I can really look at, do I need to do it or do I not?
I love that. And can I just add one little thing? Gratitude is a really great anxiety buster. So one you can do easily, you can write a gratitude journal, or we did this in my house, especially if you have little kids. Every day, write something about which you're grateful on a little slip and put it in the jar. And then at the end of the month, read it. I think it helps you remember that this life, we're not guaranteed 100 years. And there's turmoil and strife, but there is also still magic. And that's my little gratitude suggestion.
Yeah, that's so wise. And you know, the only thing that never changes is that everything changes. And the sooner you can start accepting, embracing, and when you're brave enough, even seeking change, the sooner you can start enjoying life's natural processes. There truly are so many opportunities out there waiting for you to discover. And you can't alter the fact that change exists, but you can adjust and you can day by day live a fuller, happier, and more fulfilled life. The truth of the matter is stagnancy is death. Change is what makes you realize that you're still alive. You're either moving up or moving down, but at least by the time that you accept, embrace, and understand that you're moving, you can make the conscious choice to keep moving forward and to continue grow and to continue to improve. And remember that life starts with just a thought, right? Your thought becomes your words, becomes the actions, becomes the habits, becomes your character, and ultimately becomes your destiny. And that's really life, love, and lessons. We have so enjoyed having you these 9 weeks. And I guess before we leave, I should just thank everyone so much on this amazing panel. You know, this is quarantine and this is COVID, and we did it. People have come to me and sent me emails saying, who does your graphics? Who writes the content? You know, how do you get them to show up week after week? And I say, you know what? We have these amazing people who log on to Facebook and give us interesting questions and send me emails that kind of keep us going. So I just want to extend my sincerest thanks to each of you for being a part of this. And for all the people watching on Facebook, who knows what could happen, but you never know. With a little luck, maybe network television will think that life, love, and lessons needs to be heard for all. So thank you for watching. That's Life, Love, and Lessons.
Buck up, little buckaroo. Don't let the monkeys get to you. Hold on tight and you'll get through. Buck up, little buckaroo. Cheer up, little sunshine girl. There's lots of pain in this cruel world. Lots of rain fall on you, girl. So cheer up, little sunshine girl.